to another week of Dala Creative TV. I am so excited because this week's project is for the whole family. Sunday is Mother's Day, and why not give mommy or your wife something far more precious than any gift that you can buy? Time, and most of all, family time. So why not make up a nice tray like this with some Dala paints and all the goodies that we're going to use in this project, your Mother's Day card you made last week, some nice coffee or tea, and a beautiful flower. And look at the excitement on her face when she opens it up and reads in her card that you are going to spend a family day painting together. This week we are going to do this mixed media collage painting. You don't require any artistic or creative skills to do this, and the whole family can jump in. You can even get a handprint or two in from the baby or the toddlers. We are going to put some pictures of the family into the windows of this house. And you don't have to do this project. If you follow the guidelines, you can do a family tree, you can put pictures of the little ones or the whole family in flowers. And I've got some other mixed media collage paintings that I can show you. But it is fun for the whole family to do, and anyone can do it. I've got some more. This is a mixed media collage. If you have one child, an only child, you can do a mixed media collage with your child together. Or you don't need any photos. You can just make an inspirational poster for yourself with mixed media. Here's another one with a bird, a collage silhouette of a bird. And there's another one with no pictures at all, just with collage elements and lots of fun and lots of paints. And the last one requires a little bit more painting, but anyone can do it. So if you follow the guidelines, you can basically paint any mixed media collage painting together with your wife, with your mom, with your whole family. The granny and grandpa and everybody can jump in and lend a hand. And afterwards, when you look at your beautiful collaborative painting, you will know that you spent a family fun day, and you will remember the love and the care and the happiness that went into your painting. So let's get started. In today's video lesson, we are going to need the following Dala products for our mixed media art. Acrylic texture paste, which we will use with stencils to create beautiful texture on our artwork. We will also use acrylic gel medium to collage our papers onto our painting. We will use a variety of brushes, and Dala has got a huge selection of brushes that you can choose from. We will also need some acrylic paint, and I always have the primary colors on hand because with red, blue and yellow you can create almost any color in the world. I also have a raw sienna and a burnt umber, and of course black and white. And then I have in the Dala student acrylic Payne's Grey. I always use Payne's Grey to do my shadow work on my mixed media paintings. And then I also have a flesh tint and a Naples yellow if you want to make, if you want to draw a person or a face and you want to paint flesh color. And because we are going to do a mixed media collage, we are going to use the artist canvas panel, which is hard because we need to be able to press down, and a stretch canvas will not work for the mixed media artwork we are going to do today. Some of the other important materials that we are going to need to do this mixed media family painting is some scrapbooking paper. Now you can buy scrapbook paper, or you can go online and print out digital scrapbook paper. I am going to put a link in the comment box below to this web page where I found this beautiful, bright and colorful scrapbooking paper that I downloaded for free. And if you want to use it, you are welcome to. Just remember that when you download free digital scrapbooking papers, that it is for personal use only, and you cannot use it to make art and to sell. So I can't remember the name of this paperback, but I'll put the link down in the description box below. But I'm definitely going to use this bright and colorful digital scrap papers that I just printed out on normal copy paper for today's lesson. But if you don't want to use digital paper, you can buy a variety of colorful papers, scrapbooking papers at your local art store. We are also going to use magazine pages. Now this is one of my favorite things to do when I do mixed media art, is to go through magazines and select papers and pages and pictures of things that I would like to put in my background. And for our lesson today, I looked for papers with yellow in it because we are going to do the sun, and I looked for papers or pages with some green in it so that we can put it at the bottom for the grass. And I found these silhouettes. I don't know if I'm going to use them. This is an advertising page, and they've got, I saw this beautiful black and white butterflies, so I might use them. And a recipe with grenadilla and pineapple. There's a lot of yellow in there, and yellow in the soup bowl, some yellow in the cup. I also looked for blues for the clouds, and I found this beautiful flowers. Remember, the book pages we are going to use in the background, and we're not going to use pictures. I will explain to you and demonstrate exactly what we are going to do, but for now, just look for pages with blues and greens and yellows that we can use. You can also look for words, and I found, this is an Afrikaans magazine because I am Afrikaans. I found this words prentjie van liefde, which is picture of love, and I think I'm going to use that in our collage today because it is going to be a family portrait, and the words are just so appropriate for it. Of course, you can stamp words, you can print out words and collage it onto the painting, but we'll get there later. So I also found some brown grass. We might use it. Yes, so this is really a fun and interesting exercise to do, to go through old magazines and look for pages that you can use in your collage painting. So I'm going to put this to the side. We are also going to use some stencils with a texture paste, and if you don't have stencils, don't worry, you can always look for silhouette pictures online, print it out, and then just ask an adult to cut out on the lines for you to make a temporary stencil. We're also going to need some cardstock. Doesn't really matter which color because we are going to collage over it. I also have some fluid paints that I just make my own. I use normal acrylic paint, and I mix it into the color that I want, and I just dilute it with water. And I also make some sprays that I do exactly the same, use acrylic paint, mix it into the color that I want, but I dilute it with rubbing alcohol that you can buy from the pharmacy. We're going to need some paint markers, a pencil, a stencil brush, a black marker, some foam sponges, a brayer. If you don't have a brayer, don't worry, you can always use a rolling pin from the kitchen, or you can use the inside, the toilet roll holder. You can use that as a temporary brayer, because we are just going to use it to make marks. You'll need scissors, some bubble wrap, your palette knives. I've got some doilies here. We might use it, we might not use it, and some book pages. Now, one of the nice things about mixed media is to create texture and marks on your painting. So I've got here a full box, a tin of all sorts of things that I can do. I can make marks on my painting. You don't need this, but if you have some things, I think this was for cake. It's for baking. This was the inside for, I think it was tape. Some old credit cards, some toys. I've got toys in here. This is from a tool roll. I even have a chrome in here to make marks. This is the really fun part of doing a mixed media collage. This is to wash the dishes with. The lid for lip eyes. So I have all sorts of things. I've got toothpicks in here, some cork from wine bottles. So you can use anything, use your imagination to build up a box full of mark making tools for yourself. I'm just going to put this to the side, and we are going to start with our background. One other important thing that we need is pictures of the family to put in the windows of our house. So I have printed 3 images of my granddaughters. Of course, you can put your whole family in there, mom, dad, brothers, sisters. You can make individual houses with just one picture in a window, or you can do a collaborative family painting and put everybody, granny, grandpa, whomever you want to put in your house. For my painting, I'm going to use the 3 images of my 3 granddaughters. Now, I've already torn most of the colors that I'm going to use, the greens and the yellows, the flowers, the grass, and I've got the butterflies here, and I've got the blues, and I'm going to put it on top here and get my canvas and start collaging the background. Before we collage our color magazine pages onto the background, we need to draw more or less where we want all the elements on our painting. So what we are going to put the house in this area, the sun there, and we need to make a horizon line so that we know where we must collage all our different colors. So what we are going to do is we are going to collage the bottom half with the greens and the yellows, and the top half or the top bit with blues and maybe a little bit of yellow there where we are going to put the sun. So for this part of the painting, we are going to need the acrylic gel medium, and we are just going to have some fun and paste down the pieces of paper onto our canvas. The whole family can have a turn to do this, because at the end, when you look at your painting, you know that everybody played a part in creating this, and it was a fun thing to do for mom on Mother's Day, and you can enjoy it afterwards. So for now, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to tear some papers and stick it down. You must also be very careful not to put down too much gel medium, otherwise your papers will buckle a bit. You can use an old credit card or a loyalty card, and you can just press down on it and make sure that it is flat. This part is really fun to do. Make sure that when you overlap your pieces of collage that you put gel medium onto that piece of paper as well. I prefer to do when I collage is use my hands. I just love feeling the papers and the paints under my skin, and what I love most about the Dala gel medium is that it is not sticky. It is so easy to clean your hands after. This is something that I want to show you. When I worked, I didn't put enough gel medium under this piece of paper. Now instead of trying to fix it, all you do is you just tear it off, put some more gel medium underneath, Now, I found these flowers, and although we're not going to use it as flowers in our painting, I would like to get some of the colors into the background. So I'm just going to collage it almost on the horizon line. And that's it. Our background is covered. So now, while we are waiting for it to dry, I'm just going to wash my hands with lukewarm water and soap, and there will be no glue on my hands. For my background, I am going to use Naples yellow acrylic, and the blue I'm going to mix a pastel blue that will go with the yellow. So I'm going to use the phthalo blue and just squeeze some out with white. And I am going to use a paintbrush to mix the two colors. I'm just going to take a little bit of blue at a time so that it is not too dark. And I'm going to put let me put some yellow onto my palette. Just to make sure that the two colors work well together. I'm going to take a little bit more blue. And put a touch of the Payne's Grey. The Payne's Grey is one of my favorite colors. Just put a touch of the Payne's Grey into the color that I'm mixing, the blue that I'm mixing. Just to tone it down so it's not bright, it's almost like a dark shaded blue. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of the Naples yellow and mix it into the blue. Which gives me a funny green color, but I like it. If you mix blue and yellow, it gives you green. Now this is where the fun part comes in for the whole family, especially the kids. We are not going to use paint brushes, we are going to paint with our fingers and our hands. So we're just going to make sure that the gel medium is dry before we paint over our painting. So there's areas on my painting that is still wet, and I have an embossing heat gun that I use to dry my paintings, but you can also use a hair dryer, or you can let it dry naturally, and you can use the time waiting for this painting to dry to have some fun with mom, to make her a cup of tea or coffee, or pour her a glass of wine, and just enjoy some family time together while you create this painting. For this part of the exercise, you will also need some baby wipes. So get some baby wipes out. Just leave it on the side. Just want to zoom out a bit so that you can see the whole painting. And we are going to start on the top with the blue paint in your hand and start rubbing it all over, starting between the torn pages, and especially over the areas of the canvas that does not have background on it. Just painting between, painting and rubbing paint between the torn pages just to make it cohesive, and also going over the pictures. Don't worry about anything, and if you've covered most of the pictures, it doesn't matter. This is part of the whole process. Now that you've covered the top half of your painting, you take one of your baby wipes and lightly rub some of the areas that you want to expose. You rub the paint away. Now many people ask me, why do you collage and then paint over it? Because you are covering most of the pictures or the patterns or the papers. It is part of the whole process. If you don't do the first step and you don't cover your page with collage pages or magazine pages, then you will not get the end result like we've done creating our family portrait. So I'm just going to go over to the green bit that I mixed. Just smearing it all over, and then going down to the Naples yellow. Not not worrying so much about what I'm doing. I'm just having fun, going over the painting. So I take a baby wipe again and just expose some of those flowers. Just lightly rub away some of the background of some of the paint so that you can see the background. And you can go into the top half. We'll wipe it away so we can see some of the grass here and some of the brown grass. And that's it, that should do it. Then just wipe away the paint from your hands or wash your hands, and we are going to dry this first layer of paint. Now that the first layer of our painting is dry, I just want to show you something. One of the pages that I tore out had little birds, flying in the sky, and I collaged it. So that's one of the areas that I wanted to keep exposed. So I rubbed away some of the paint there, and also I left some of the flowers to keep some of the color on my background, and here some of the grass, and there also more of the flowers and some of the brown, and yes, I kept some of the blue pages exposed so that that will form part of the sky. So now we are moving on to the second part of painting the background or creating the background. And this is where I'm going to, you don't have to do this part, you don't have to collage words in it. You can afterwards write words on it, paint words on it. You don't need to put words in your painting at all. But I love this, and I want this word to be part of my background. It is just going to be there in the distance, and you're going to have to look for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear around it as close to the actual letters as possible. And I'm going to use my gel medium, and this time I'm going to use the brush and collage it onto the, I'm going to use the words to form part of my horizon line. Fine there, and I'm just going to press slightly on it and stick it down. My whole painting might not be dry, just be careful and make sure that all the paint is dry. I also thought of using a doily as part of my sun. But then again, I want to use texture paste and a stencil for my sun, but I'm not going to use it. That is the fun thing about mixed media, is you can play around with all sorts of things that you can use in your background. I want to use one or two pieces of the book page. Remember, like I said in the first video, don't tear up your books. I bought this book at our local SPCA and it was already damaged. It had water, had some water damage, and I bought it for 5 or 10 rand, and I'm using that on my art. just want to put a piece on this side just to create some balance. And wait for it to dry. Now that the gel medium is dry, I'm going to go back and use some of the blue that I mixed, and I'm just going to blend this in with the painting. And don't worry if you go over the letters, we can rub it away with the wet wipe now. I'm literally going to go over the whole word because I don't want the white paper to stand out. And do the same with the book pages here at the bottom. Firstly, just go around it and then over it so that it blends in to the background. Now I'm going to take a wet wipe and just rub away the paint lightly so that I can see the letters, the words. And you will see that some of the places the paint went over the letters, but it doesn't matter. I can still see what is written down there. I want it to form part of the background. I don't want it to stand out. Same for the book pages. You can see that you can just see that there's book pages in the background. So I'm going to dry this and then we'll move on to the next stage. Now that our background is completely dry, we are going to make some marks with our brayer. And remember I said if you don't have a brayer, I'm going to show you how to use the inside part of a toilet roll to get the same effect. I'm also using the tear off palette available by Dala when I work with my brayer. So what I'm going to do, let's just move this to the side so that everything is in the screen. I am going to mix a green color to create patterns and textures on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is to also not waste paint. I'm going to take all of this paint and mix it together and use the rest of the blue and I'm just going to add some yellow to it to get a nice green color for our grass. At this stage it's also important to look at your scrapbooking papers to see that you use more or less the same colors as your papers. We don't want our painting to be a mess, so I use the tear off palette paper. So what I do now is I just take my brayer and I just go over it and make sure that the roller is covered, and I'm just going to paint over it, just like that. I'm going to bring it up so that you can see what it looks like. I've just created texture over the background. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. With some white. and blue that I'm going to mix. And I'm going to mix a slightly darker blue than the sky. We don't want it to be much darker than the blue that we have on top. We just want to create dimension with the textures that we paint. Over with the brayer. So I'm just going to add a little bit more blue. So it's just a little bit darker. Remember, we're still going to make clouds as well. So we're going to take this blue and paint it on this side of the palette paper so that we don't waste. Paint. And we're going to take the toilet roll and we're going to put the paint onto the toilet roll, the inside of the toilet roll. And we are just going to paint over the sky using a toilet roll. And that's it. Now, the one thing that I noticed I did is I went over my birds. So I'm going to take my wet wipe and I'm just going to rub away some of that paint so that I can still see my pretty birds up there. So once we are done with this, all we do is we take the page, tear it off, I fold it in half. You don't have to do this, but I don't like to waste. So I fold it in half, I print it like that, and I wait for it to dry, and in a future painting I use it as collage painting. Okay, our background marks are dry, so I'm just going to move this to the side a little bit, and I'm going to take out my bubble wrap. If you don't have bubble wrap, you can use cotton wool, you can use fabric or a sponge to create clouds, but I like to use bubble wrap. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the white acrylic paint, put some on our finger, and just rub it on the bubble side of the bubble wrap, and don't press too hard because we don't want to break the bubbles. I'm just going to smear it over, and we are just going to stamp randomly to make clouds. Now I don't want to go over my birds again, so I'm really looking at where I am putting my bubbles. I'll pop the bubble. Okay, so I'm just going to close my paint and I'll bring it up so that you can see the pretty effect it created on the background. Now that is going to be our clouds. While we wait for our background to dry, I've already mixed some texture paste with a mustardy yellow color, and I'm going to show you a few ways how to make a textured sun on your painting without using stencils. So I've got this round sponge. So the first one is I'm just going to take the sponge and I'm just going to twist it. And lift it up. And there you've got a textured sun. Now if you want to create sunbeams, my fingers are a bit big, but if you have a little one, you can have the little ones put their fingers into the yellow paint and just go around the circle to create sunbeams. Now of course if it's a little tiny tot with small fingers, it's going to look much prettier. But you can do that and also have their fingerprints in your painting. The next one is I'm just going to take some of the paint and just, oh, that's too much, just rub it into a sort of like a circle. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. And we are going to use a kitchen fork to create sun rays. I'll just bring it up so that you can see there's another sun for you. What you can do is you can also use a society stick and draw a spiral into it. I'm just going to take some of the texture paste off because that one is a little bit too thick for, I should have used cardstock too for this demonstration. And there is your textured sun with the kitchen fork. Of course you can just use your sponge and just create a round sun without sun rays, or you can use your palette knife and just paint sun rays with your texture paint. So there's many very ways that you can use household items or sponges or your hands to create a beautiful sun for your mixed media painting. We, however, for this painting are going to use a stencil with a spiraled pattern on it, and I'm going to use that for our sun. We are going to make a nice big sun that moves out of the paint. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the texture paste onto my palette knife, and I'm going to press down on my stencil, and I'm just going to rub it over. Make sure that your stencil don't lift up, otherwise the paint will bleed in underneath. Okay, and there is the textured paste sun. I've mixed a lot of texture paint yellow, and I don't want to waste this, so I'm going to use the same stencil. I'm just going to clean it with a wet wipe. But a smaller version for sunflowers. While we wait for the gel medium to dry, we are going to create the paper for our house. Now I think 1 A4 paper will be enough for the house. What we are going to do is we're going to use our gel medium again. And the brush. And we are going to cut strips from our collage paper. You can measure it if you want to, but you don't have to. I've randomly cut the strips up, and we are going to start at the top. And we are just going to paste them down with the gel medium to create our own colorful page of paper for our house. And there we go. We've created a nice collage paper for our house. Now we just need to wait for it to dry. While I was doing that, I decided that I'm going to use some of the red strips for the roof. So we're just going to alternate the two pieces of red paper that I have for a roof, and for that we only need to do half a page. We don't need to cover the whole A4 page.